platform where experts share their views on African issues. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast again with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard. At the Beyond Africa podcast, we tell African stories that change lives. We are going back to Nigeria. Recently, a U.S. Congressional delegation visited Nigeria to review what have been claims that have been made about a Christian genocide. Stories about Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, and ISWAP attacking individuals in Nigeria and groups is not strange within our communities or for those who care about Africa. Over the last recent months, when President Trump declared this a genocide against Christians, newspapers, editors, analysts, academics, and researchers rose to the podium, and everyone is giving opinions depending on what they see as the situation on the ground. Recently, I hosted two very influential guests. One, Joseph Okechukwu, who was very clear that this is a genocide. Then I hosted Mike Arnold, an American missionary who now calls himself the Earth Shaker, and he is very emphatic that this is a genocide. Today, I have Mike Arnold and another witness, someone who has lived the realities of the situation. He is going to join Arnold, and both of them are going to tell us what they believe is the situation and the next steps. Before I introduce my guest to you, let me walk out of the studio for one moment. The Beyond Africa podcast. Welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast, the only platform where experts share their views on African issues. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back. Let me introduce you to Pastor John Haruna. Pastor, you're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you have me today. Thank you.
This is your first time of coming here, and of course, this is the third time I'm discussing about the genocide or the Christian persecution or the Boko Haram strikes in Nigeria. I hesitate giving it one connotation because different people are describing it differently. But it's our pleasure to hear from you what you have lived as the realities on the ground. Before we get into the conversation today, how are you feeling and where are you today?
Oh, well, I'm feeling a little bit, sad and mixed feelings because of my experience, the trauma I've experienced. But presently, I am in the United States of America, pursuing my studies and then pursuing other ways, activities like being an activist to see how we can speak on behalf of our people down home in Nigeria concerning this.
And have you made any reasonable progress towards that? Because first of all, we want to express our sincere sympathy for all the pain and trauma you've gone through, witnessing the horror of the attacks. I know that one of your churches were attacked some time ago.
Yeah, maybe let me just say a little bit about that, about my experience. March 7, 2010, as a pastor in Nigeria, we had one of our communities attacked. We run and trying to see how we can help. Everybody was just crying or running, and we were helpless. Well, I don't want to talk about the security aspect of it because that is a terrible thing even to mention. While for 3 to 4 hours, terrible terrorist Islamic group came into this village, popularly called Dogana Hawa, came in and operated for over 4 hours, killing people, burning down houses with people inside, and shooting people at close range. Women who were pregnant, their wombs open up, and the small kids in the womb shot to death. They bring machetes and just, it was like a festival of killings. I am telling you, it was a traumatic night. Daybreak around 6 a.m., we went around trying to look at bring out the death, the corpses. At the end of count, we counted more than 500 people, mostly women and small children killed, macheted, burned. It was a terrible sight for me. I spent more than 2 months without sleeping, I can tell you, because of the trauma, the images and the pictures that come out, in my dream. It was a very traumatic situation. I went there, worship with them. That happened Friday. Went there on Sunday, worship, and hear one of our pastors, because some of our pastors were killed. One who survived, he was saying he was listening to them, and they didn't see him, and he heard all that they were saying, that their aim was to wipe out every person in that community. And that was what happened. I thought that was the end. What happened? 2012, I was in a church, a congregation of over 1,200. We were worshiping, and I was about to preach that day. And they sent a suicide bomber to bring, bomb into that church. He came in, with those bombs inside that church, exploded that bomb. Well, my survival today, my being alive today, I just see it as a miracle of God, because I was knocked down. I went off completely. I thought that I was dead until I came back, and then see people all over, trying to help them out. So we have experienced this, we have lived in it. And so that is why we are really advocating for our brothers and sisters who are still going through the same experience.
It's sad to learn that you escaped from the jaws of death at a very tiny given opportunity. And
Yeah.
your colleague who told you that he heard them say their aim is to wipe out every person in the community, did he say that immediately after the event, or did he say that a few days after the event?
It happened on Friday, and then the next day I was there, because we went there in the morning to just see who are alive, and then those that we can help, those who are displaced. And then I met him. It's not after some time. That was the next day. I went there to encourage him, to pray with him. And then he told me what they were saying at that time. So he had them. He knew that they were Fulanis, terrorists.
And that was 2010, you say?
Yes.
2010 till today. Has your church been attacked again after that?
Yeah. The attack is even up to this time. I am telling you, our churches are being burned down, attacked, and people destroyed. Presently, I can tell you that 35 of our churches were destroyed at today, because it didn't stop. It continued. In fact, even when I was home 2018, I experienced it. And 13 of our pastors are killed at this point. So it's not that it stopped. It's still going on, even up till today. We all have the records and the building. In 2018, I was there. I went to the churches, the burned down churches, interviewed people. I have all the pictures and the cameras of the interview with me today. One member of a church that I met, one of the elders, they were meeting in the church after church service. So they were meeting, having an elders meeting. These people came and killed all of the elders and the pastors and burned down the church. And I was there. And I have all the pictures. You see me in that church that was burned down. And the mass grave is there close to the church. It's still there. And I have the picture. So this destruction and killings of Christians is still going on, unabated. And the security people are doing nothing about it. And I can tell you, I'm telling you out of experience, what I have seen. I've gone to most of these villages I'm talking to you. I have seen the attackers. taking over their houses, living in their houses, and telling them, come and claim your houses if we don't destroy, if we don't kill you. Then, yeah.
Again, I'm so sorry to hear about this painful experience. We'll talk about the details of this in a moment. Let me bring on stage Mike Arnold, who is an American missionary who has been to Nigeria about 15 times in the last years to discuss these issues. Mike, you're welcome back to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we had a conversation last time, and you've been talking about that conversation a lot, and it's difficult to talk about the right or the positive side of that conversation after listening to Pastor John Aruna. But you've been doing some advocacy in the United States. To what extent do you think your advocacy responds to the pain that the Pastor John Aruna has just told us now?
So, I've spent week before last, the week of the 1st, I was in Washington, D.C., and I met with many of the top people at the State Department as well as in the Congress. It was right when Representative Moore was departing for Nigeria, so I didn't meet with him personally, met with his legislative aide over these issues. Also met with Chris Smith's office, met with Ted Cruz's office, and met with my own representative, Chip Roy. And I'm happy to, pleased, I should say, there's nothing happy about any of this, but pleased to report that they all understand the depth of the situation. I don't believe any of them are bamboozled by the Nigerian government. Just the fact that the Nigerian government has gone out of their way to lie and spin and deny the obvious totally obliterates their credibility from any decision maker elsewhere in the world that has a heart. And I know they're being diplomatic in the communication, but I don't think that they have much hope in working with this government to stop something that this government denies. I mean, it makes no sense. So I think the advocacy is taking root. I'm not the only one at all, and neither is Pastor John, but our voices with those of many others who are eyewitnesses, that you can't hide the truth forever. The truth always wins. We're not out there pushing a narrative. We're not out there trying to spin anything. We're just out there sharing what we know. We're out there sharing the things we've witnessed ourselves, the stories that the people that we know that have experienced these things. That's always the winning side, but sometimes you got to work at it. So I believe the advocacy is working. We need to keep it up. If we're silent, the only thing that will stand is the lies and spin. But we're not keeping silent, even in the face of threats, even in the face. I assume by now I have at least one fatwa against me. But I'm not going to be silent, and I'm so happy to see that so many Nigerians are now getting the courage to stand up and speak. That's what's going to really shake the foundation, is when the Nigerians say enough is enough, and they stand up and they speak the truth. That's what will bring these walls down.
All right. Thank you. So when Representative Royal Moore visited Nigeria, he posted on his X account, while in Benue, I met with dozens of Christians who were driven from their homes and subjected to horrific violence and now live in IDP camps. They told harrowing stories that will remain with me for the rest of my life. One woman was forced to watch as they killed her husband and 5 children. She and her unborn child barely escaped. Another woman's family was murdered in front of her, and her baby was ripped from her womb. One man's family was hacked to death in front of his eyes, and his arm was permanently mangled. There are more than 600,000 Christians in IDP camps in Benue alone. These Christians should be able to live in their ancestral homeland without fear of genocidal Fulani. This kind of echoes what you told us, Pastor John. And it shows that from between 2009 and today, the situation is not getting any better.
Yeah, you see, Mike Arnold, thank you for what you are doing in advocacy angle and helping our people. You know, that is what we have been saying all these years. We are being killed, our homes taken over, but the government kept denying it. Now with this advocacy, people are crying out with what Mike is doing and what we're adding our voice to it. That led them to go and see for themselves. Fact finding. Who is lying? Are we really telling the truth? I am glad that they were able to go and see these things for themselves. And now we are talking about one state. Only Benue now we're talking about. You go to Plateau, like I said, if you have more than 25,000 households, we're talking about, not individuals. Do you know that in a particular local government, like a county here in the US, Rium local government, the Islamic terrorist guys have taken over 85% of the entire local government? I have seen it myself. It's not somebody telling me. And I was asking the chief security.
Do you have any reports that have been published by any international organizations or journals or your church organization about these territories that have been taken over by the organization?
Yeah, exactly. We got all our evidence because people are not speaking. And recently, well, I'm also the president of the Bureau of Diaspora. That is why bringing all these Christians now all over the world to just make our voice so strong. Let them know that not only one or two person is talking about, we are talking about everyone in the whole world that has relations in Nigeria. We need to come together. And so we came out with our own facts, had our world press conference, printed it on the national newspapers in Nigeria, challenging anyone who has a contrary opinion to challenge us. But I'm telling you, up till now, nobody come out to challenge and say we are lying or this is not fact. Because
have you run your data side by side, the data of other organizations like Human Rights Watch, International, Amnesty International, and Genocide Watch to see where there are lapses and gaps in your own analysis?
Well, that's what we are doing. Like I was saying, now we decided to say, okay, now what we'll do, we are going to come out with a complete data record now and take it even to ICC, International Criminal Court, and take it to the UN, because it's high time we do this. You know why we have not done this years back? We thought the government will be serious about this. When we keep crying and telling them do something about it, but they prefer to play politics with the lives of people. They keep hiding all these facts. They keep hiding all this truth. And it's so sad that even the Nigerian press is not doing enough. I'm telling you, one of the report we printed, we approached a particular news print media in Nigeria. We told them, help us print this report. Do you know what? They refused. And I told that, look, we need to sue these people. And then my goodness say, well, let's not do that. Let's just give other print media that would like to do that. It's very sad because we know that print media organization is behind even the terrorist guys that are killing people in my state. I can confidently tell you that.
That's a strong allegation that print media is supporting terrorists. And luckily enough, you have not mentioned the name of the print media.
Yeah.
But before you make this claim, do you have enough facts to substantiate your claim?
You know what? That's why we feel it's high time for us to speak without fear, because we have seen death, we have seen people killed, and the government turning away from it. So what I'm telling you is a fact. And if you, at the end of this program, I will give you the name of this print media house and then see their publications compared to what we sent to them to print. So they said they will not do it because we know what they are doing. So
have
they are behind.
Have other print media houses printed your report?
Yeah, 2 accepted to print.
Only 2 out of all the press houses in Nigeria?
Well, we have, I can say, I'm talking about the one that are nationally known. I can mention about 4 that I know that are still strong. And once they print something, they know that they are printing facts and evidence. So 2 of them agreed to print. And so they printed, our press conference, our document that shows what is going on, that this Christian genocide. Because they were there during the press conference, they saw the facts, they saw the evidence, and then agreed to print. But the other newsprint media that refused to print that, we know who they are. And we deliberately took it to them. And when they denied it, they refused, we know.
Thank you for that. Mike, from your visits to Nigeria, did you face any criticisms or direct attacks from particular media houses?
So after the historic press conference on October 14th, I actually 4 top publications published pre-printed articles that were planted that said I denied the genocide, that I called it a hoax. I consider that an attack on my character. Thankfully, we have a very good attorney who had them all retract, and many apologized and corrected that. Yeah, there's been a couple of publications, and forgive me, I could look it up. I don't have all the names, there's so many, but that have attacked me. But that's to be the expected. And now I've got some major people in the north attacking me. I've got the Sultanate, who's called me out, and then Sheikh Gumi has singled me out on more than one occasion and attacked me.
Are they simply saying what you talk about, or the way you frame the question is not a direct representation of what is happening, or are they attacking you? Why do you call these attacks? How do they frame it for you to call it an attack?
Well, it's everything from saying I'm in the CIA, or that I have ulterior motives, that I'm out for personal gain. That the typical stuff that happens when you're a white person in Africa, and trying to do good. Personal attacks. I've had Sheikh Gummy actually called for my visa ban, and said I'm lighting the nation on fire. So
I'll come back to you in a moment. Let's bring Emmanuel Ogede on board. Emmanuel, you are welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast. Your sound is off. We still cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you. While you thought, okay.
Okay.
Good.
You hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we know you are hosting, or you're part of a meeting that is discussing these issues in Nigeria, and you've made time to be with us today because of the pertinence of what you think this is. When the U.S., let me just get this to you. What is the temperature out there, especially within the Christian meeting you're having today? Are you discussing the genocide, the persecution, the attacks?
Yes, absolutely. What we had today was a somewhat historic event where we had Christian traditional rulers from the north and, Christian leaders from the north as well gathering. Someone described it as similar to the Council of Jerusalem. And a lot of the outspoken voices were there. And I have to tell you, every speaker was very emphatic that this is genocide. There was no playing around the bush. But what was funny was afterwards, when we're having dinner, people were coming up to me and asking, hey, when is Trump coming? So there is a great air of expectation here. And there's also a great deal of frustration that, not enough was done to deal with the situation until external voices started amplifying our cries. And so it was a very good meeting, and everyone was emphatic that this should be the beginning of more engagement. People are tired of talking. People want action. Now, maybe some of the too sad stories out of the testimonies today was a gentleman who lost 5 family members Christmas 2 years ago when they burnt them alive in his home. Now, I've heard of this guy over the years, but today I got to meet him face to face. Another gentleman who was there today was almost lynched just last week. He's a Muslim convert to Christianity. And so we were literally in a Heroes Hall of Fame, people who have paid a price for their faith. One of my sons from Yobe was here as well. His throat was slit 13 years ago, and he still continues to need medical attention. So there are people who survived, but who are still dealing with the daily reality of the atrocity that occurred. So that's, in a nutshell, is the feeling right here tonight. Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
Thank you for sharing this story. It's difficult to contemplate yourself in a room full of people who have witnessed such difficult moments. Even right here on this program, I'm finding it very difficult to understand the kind of pain you people have gone through. These moments call for deep contemplation and empathy. But I would like to know from you, those who were in the hall, you said there were Christians and there were traditional authorities. Were there any Muslims in there?
I don't believe they were, but there was talk of expanding outreach, to Muslims as well, because in the Middle Belt we come from mixed families. In my family's home here in Abuja, I have a couple of Muslims, but they are not extremists. They grew up in the South, and so they're more tolerant and easygoing than the Muslims in the North. And we try to say, look, why don't you guys borrow a leaf from the Muslims in the South? They don't do the crazy stuff that you all do. They go to school, they develop themselves, and they lead decent, professional, productive lives. So that outreach will ultimately happen, but right now the focus is, of course, on Christians who are facing an existential threat, particularly at this season. Around now, the attacks on Christians spike every year in the North. And, this is a concern, for us all.
Thank you so much. Let's bring Mike back on stage. And Mike, so you hear this interaction between the traditional authorities and the Christians, and they had this meeting and are thinking of extending a hand to the Muslims within the community in an outreach format. Do you think this is something that could help calm down the situation? I know you've visited the area and you've spoken to IDPs in the area. So you've gone to the IDP camps and you have schools out there that you built and you're running. When you talk to the students in the schools and all those around the community, do you have the impression that reaching out to Muslims is going to create a sense of belonging that can reduce the temperature?
That's a good question. Yes and no. No, because the folks that are doing this killing and that are backing it, that are driving it, and that support it, I don't consider them in fellowship with the peaceful Muslims at all. I don't think the peaceful Muslims consider that as well. So reaching out to the ones that will engage will certainly, hopefully, build the voices and build the community that stands against it. But it's not going to stop the killings. It may even increase it. We have a school in Abuja, in the Durumi IDP camp. And that camp was almost entirely Muslims from the Chibok area. And we have a school there. And it's well attended. It's taken a long time to earn their trust, but they trust us. And so I know there's a lot of Muslims out there who are victims. I've also, in fact, it was Barrister Emmanuel that enlightened me about the protocol of when one of these terror groups approaches a group, they will divide men, women, Christians, Muslims, kill the Christian men. Then they'll go to the Muslim men and say, join or die. And there are Muslims who would rather die than become radicalized. And those people should be honored, and we should extend an olive branch to them. And we've been trying to, even at the big press conference on October 14th, when one of the imams stood up and said, there's Muslims being killed also. I said, yes, there are. Then so let's stand together against it. And he sat down. I don't know why the Muslim leaders who keep saying Muslims are being killed too, why they don't then go to the next step and call for it to be stopped. They never do. They say that as an attempt to deflect attention and say just ignore it because it's not just Christians. So yeah, to answer your question again, I believe that we need to keep reaching out to the Muslims who will engage. Isa al-Buba told me personally, he said, yes, Christians and Muslims can live together in peace. And we should seek for that. We should seek for an equitable community, and we should operate from that. But that's not going to stop the radicals from doing what they're doing. It may even increase it.
Thank you. You heard what Boris Emmanuel just said. He said someone came up to him and asked when Trump is coming in. You gave a position or an idea of the developments that are happening on the Capitol. Capitol is the United States Congress. Do you have the impression that policy positions may be adopted as soon as possible?
I believe that the truth is fairly well known. There's also, though, a protocol that must be followed as a superpower, which the United States is. We can't just go send bombers next door to bomb insurgents like Tinubu did. We have to build a coalition. We have to do it right. Have congressional backing. Have to have international, acceptance to some extent. Trump, he definitely shoots from the hip, but he does it very wisely. He does it shrewdly. He does it decently and in good order. And that's what I believe is happening now. Is what we would call getting the ducks in a row, building the predicate. Establishing an irrefutable foundation so that when the action is taken, and I believe it will be taken, that there's no real recourse. There's no real way that anybody can push back on it when all of the facts are fully in hand, and when diplomacy's been fully exhausted. I think that's where we're getting to, the exhaustion of diplomacy. We'll see, but yeah, I believe the action is going to come, and it just takes a little more time than Nigerians would like to see. It takes more time than I would like to see. But you see what Trump's words did. Everything's changed when he said we're going to come guns a-blazing. I mean, it's blown wide open now. People are talking. I think he's accomplished his first goal is to open it wide up. But yeah, to the Nigerians who ask when is Trump coming, he'll come as soon as he can. And I believe that's the case.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel. Are you confident carrying this message tomorrow to those who are asking today if to know when Trump is coming?
Well, I do have an interesting position on this, which is that the United States has been a partner of Nigeria in the war against terror in Nigeria. The U.S. offered $7 million reward for the capture of Shekau, Boko Haram's leader. Nigeria offered only 50 million. That tells you that America put more, literally, they put more money trying to get this guy than Nigeria did. And so I think that America already has rights to fight these guys. I don't think it's a new whole process is required. I think that what needs to happen is for Nigeria to say, we're struggling with this, bring in your firepower and help take care of this situation. Literally, the situation that Mike referred to in Benue Republic was that, the president there called Tinubu and said, we need fire support, and they came in, bombs are blazing. That's literally the same thing Tinubu needs to do with Trump and say, hey, listen, I just lost the general, come, bombs are blazing and help us, kick these guys out. So I don't know why this is complicated. I don't think it's that complicated.
All right, thank you, Pastor John Aruna. Why do you think the government of Nigeria is so quick to react in Benin, but it's taking forever to react on issues that are on home soil?
I would like to agree with the two gentlemen. When you are playing politics with people's life, most of these terrorists, we know them, they are Muslims. And so when you're talking about election, you want to win election, but you don't want to offend the Muslims. And you have allowed them to surround you even in power. And then you are delaying it, and people are being killed. I want to agree with what Ima is saying here, because it's very clear that the government doesn't have the intention, the willpower to deal with the situation. If they will do it, they could have done something, but they are not willing. And I will keep saying this, they are not willing to do it. They know where these people are. Somebody comes, kill you, take over your homes, and then the government is watching. It's not, these people are not spirit. These people are humans. They are there. They have taken over people's houses, communities, and even changed the names of the communities. They are there. Just go clear them up. But in fact, recently, why I told you that these people are not serious. Recently, they sent the federal government, when they had Trump mention talking, they quickly arrange, I will call it arrange, a committee on peace and reconciliation back to Plateau and Middle Belt immediately to meet with Christians and herders. I know this, that they are bringing them to live in peace. Why are you deceiving yourself? This is not farmer-herder clash. This is complete genocide and killing of Christians. And these people are taking over their homes.
Yeah, but Pastor, you said the government is not willing and there's no political will. We've gone through a successive change of governments in Nigeria. Goodluck Jonathan, Yaradua, Buhari, now Tinubu. All these gentlemen were leaders when Boko Haram was right there. Does the change of government not influence anything?
Well, let me tell you why they are saying it's just a political thing. When Jonathan was in power, the same people, Tinubu and his company, came to the US that Christians are being killed, that there is a Christian genocide, that they want Jonathan removed. They succeeded. These are the same people are now denying genocide. That's why I'm telling you, these people, they are playing politics with people's life. They know what is happening, but they are covering it. So, I wish that Trump will just come. The diplomacy, I think, is taking, they have all the facts by now, I believe. I wish that they will just come now and start bombing these terrorists, and then that will give us hope in that country. But at this point, I don't see anything coming out from this government.
Thank you very much, Pastor Aruna. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us now, you're watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard. Before I continue, kindly like, subscribe, and share. Share this link so that everyone who is concerned about what is happening in Nigeria can watch and have an opinion based on first-hand information and on those who have been facing the realities on the ground. We have here people who have faced the realities and are out also doing advocacy on the question. It is no doubt that Nigeria needs help, and those who are talking about help should be listened to. So that is why I organized this particular episode on this Beyond Africa podcast, and we would organize more episodes to discuss what is happening in Nigeria for two reasons. The first reason is to get a better understanding of the problem, and the second reason is to help those who need help speak out so that they can receive that help. So kindly like, subscribe, and especially share, and also send us comments as viewers, kindly send us comments so that you can enrich the conversation when our guests are sharing their points of view. Let me bring back Mike Arnold on stage. And you've heard Arnold. I want to talk with you most especially about the foreign policy, foreign intervention. Pastor John Aruna just said in the past, others came to Nigeria, to the United States, and advocated for the term Christian genocide. You know, and it appears to some that this is the first time the word Christian genocide is being used to relate to this conflict. To what extent can we say it's a conflict? And to what extent can we say that the United States has been involved in trying to get a solution to this problem since it started?
Well, I don't believe, first of all, that the United States has been trying to get a solution to this problem. I think that the Obama and Biden administrations were complicit in causing the problem and worked very hard to cover it up. There's still quite a few folks in our government who thinks it's caused by global warming and cockamamie ideas like that. In fact, Trump's envoy, who is actually a Nigerian citizen, as well as U.S. and Lebanese citizen, this Masad Bulus, Tiffany Trump's father-in-law. When he was in Nigeria about the same time I was, early October, and came out and parroted the Islamic radical talking points, calling it criminality and farmer-herder clashes, and saying religion is not involved. So there's still elements within our government that we have to overcome. It's never going to be fully, unified. We have a very large government, but there are still voices there that are prominent voices that are lying about this, whether intentionally or whether they've just believed the lie themselves. And so that has to be overcome. I believe that Trump is sincerely looking at solutions. The narrative debate over whether it's genocide or not, for one, personally, as we talked about last time, you can call it Frank or Fred or Joe or whatever you want to call it. The fact is, people are being massacred, innocent people. It's not a conflict connotes that it's like two sides, like there's combat taking place, and there is not combat taking place. There's innocent people trying to live their lives peacefully that are being attacked and massacred. That's not a conflict. That is a purge. That is when it's targeting Christians and non-violent Muslims, that is a genocide. I don't care, you can deny it all you want. It's not a conflict. It's not a clash. It's a targeted purge, and that needs to be stopped. I believe Trump is a man of peace. He's demonstrated that over and over and over, and I believe what he's seeking here is for the good of humanity, and I think he's not going to rest until it's done.
But the question comes back: time. In his last mandate, he had declared Nigeria a country of particular concern. Then he left, and it was reversed. Now, Nigerians are concerned that it's taking too much time. When you talk to those you cited that you met at the Capitol, what impression do they give to you that they are working fast enough to get a policy position that can bring change?
Well, if you look how fast it takes a while to pull together a congressional delegation with security and with secrecy. It was a very well kept secret. I don't think that Riley Moore dragged his feet whatsoever when he was given that assignment, and he really just got back. I mean, I don't know how much more rapidly it can be done. The fact is, Trump has been in office less than a year, and he's gotten quite a bit done. He's ended 8 wars. He's brought peace to the Middle East. He took out Iran's nuclear capability. I don't think this was front and center in his attention day one. For us that love Nigeria, or for you that are Nigerians, of course it's our number one issue. But that's the challenge when you're dealing with a representative or a senator or a president, is that they've got a lot of important issues, and this is one of them. That's why the voices are so important. Keeping it in the news, keeping it in their ears, keeping it in their eyes is going to continue to make it a priority. I don't see that anybody's dragging their feet. I don't know that it can be done any faster than it's being done. And I think it's going to continue at that pace. in as fast as possible until it's done. I believe that.
Thank you so much. Barrister Emmanuel, do you know if any cases have been brought within Nigeria to prosecute any of the perpetrators of these actions?
Well, that's a good question. I do know that in 2010, some people were arrested for the massacre that Dr. John Haruna just mentioned, where over 500 people were slaughtered in one night in two villages in Plateau State, the Dogonaha massacre. And I took time off from my firm to come to Nigeria and work on that case to ensure that there were prosecutions. And interestingly, there were prosecutions and the people involved were convicted. But to my knowledge, that was the only instance where people who perpetrated mass murder in Nigeria from the Fulani militia were tried and convicted. Unfortunately, it was a fiery victory because what happened was the president at the time was Fulani, so he made a federal case out of it. So although two states could try them for murder, the federal government took over the accused persons and tried them for lesser charges. So instead of getting the death penalty, they got 10 years imprisonment, they served their time, and they're gone. So you don't really know if that was justice or substantial justice. Now, right now, a client of mine is in prison awaiting execution for defending himself against a Fulani attacker who stabbed him on his farm and whom he seized the weapon from and stabbed back. And today, the traditional ruler of that kingdom raised the issue in the meeting in which we were. And it's a very, very upsetting case. It looks like the young man who has been on death row for 10 years now is being punished for making the mistake of surviving an attack. So, I know that I pressed that point with the US Congress, and they also pressed it with the Nigerian government. And I literally gave the Nigerian government an ultimatum, to free him as soon as possible, because it now has international ramifications. One last point I want to make is the Nigerian government has told the US delegation and Congress that they are prosecuting terrorists. And I have two observations. One of them is that there's no Boko Haram terrorist who has been executed in Nigeria, but in the country of Chad, several Boko Haram terrorists have been executed. So what message does that send to Boko Haram? It's safer and more profitable to play in Nigeria than in Chad. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is literally, what we're dealing with is insufficient prosecution of terrorists in one country versus another. Now, the second point is looking through the list of cases they gave us of alleged prosecutions pertaining to the Yalwata massacre, which claimed 278 lives. I noticed that two local Christian boys were charged with stealing cattle. And the government is presenting this as evidence of their, you know, uh, holding the Fulani militia accountable. So, when you sift through, the weeds, you find out that there's a lot less that meets the eye than one would expect. So, yeah, that's my quick response on that.
Thank you. Have there been any civil prosecutions?
Well, if you mean civil lawsuits, no, not really. The problem with this terrorism is that it is multi-regional, and so we have found in a few cases where people have been apprehended, they have testified and said, we had a meeting in X state, and they asked for volunteers to go down to the south of Nigeria to perpetrate an atrocity and melt back into the weeds and the forests. So, in terms of finding an actual defendant that you can file a civil lawsuit against, that hasn't happened. But there have been actions taken, civil lawsuits have been taken out against the government, including at the ECOWAS court, just trying to bring some measure of accountability to the government for failure to protect and so on and so forth. I know that I've been approached about an action to try and stop the federal government from taking lands of indigenous peoples and Christian communities and building ranches for, Fulani headsmen and militia. And, that's certainly a bone of contention for me. And it's something that we're all exploring. It can't be right that you are building ranches.
Let's talk about ranches in a moment. But is private criminal prosecution authorized under Nigerian criminal law?
Yes, that is authorized.
Yeah.
And,
so, have you engaged any private criminal prosecutions in these cases?
Yes, we attempted to do that in the same case I told you about, where the 500 were killed. My learned colleague, who is late now, actually invoked a coroner's inquest in Jos, which is a legal proceeding to determine the cause of death and those responsible for the death. So that was, a civil criminal sort of action. And unfortunately, the Nigerian military, used to storm the court with troops every time we had a hearing to intimidate the judiciary from handling the trial. And eventually, he was pressured to drop it because the feds made a federal case out of it. So it has been attempted, but not with significant success.
So what was the outcome of the case at the ECOWAS court?
I know that at the ECOWAS courts, some damages were awarded. I don't know how much and whether they ever collected, but at least it created some kind of precedent.
All right, thank you. We'll talk about ranches in a moment. Let me get to Pastor Haruna.
Yeah,
Pastor Haruna, it looks like there is a recognition that there is a problem, and the victims are not trying to use the legal system to get out of this problem. From what the barrister is just saying, there are very few cases that have been brought by the victims like you. Why are you not taking advantage of the legal system that has provided for legal procedures in such cases?
Well, to be honest with you, when you don't trust a system, you find it very difficult. Like you rightly said, when you try to prosecute all these people, sometimes, like I said, it's not that we don't know our killers. We know them. We see them. They're taking over our houses and they are living there. And then you tell the government and say, hey, look at these people. Why can't you step in? And the government deliberately refused to do anything about it. I am telling you, you are not going to get justice. Because if the government want to give you justice, they are there to, their job constitutionally is to protect the people and then listen to their own cases. But we are so discouraged with the entire system. That is why we even prefer to go beyond Nigeria, like the ICC and other international courts. Maybe they will hear us. That was why from the beginning I said, now, what we are doing now, we are compiling now a lot of the whole evidence so far with the pictures, with the names, and send it like a petition And if possible, we join even the Nigerian government as as defendants, because we have evidence that we have talked to them, that we have shown them where the enemies are. They're doing nothing. So it's something that you don't even have hope in the government again. So that's the next line of action we're doing now. We are working as a community. We are working with other communities that are going through this terrible experience, bringing all our evidence and facts, and then put it like a petition and see how far we can deal with this situation. But I'm telling you, like the learned Imam mentioned, I'm telling you, the Nigerian judicial system, I don't think we can trust them in dealing with this situation. Let me be just frank and be open to you concerning this. They will do nothing about it, and they are not even willing to do anything about it. So it's just wasting of time and resources trying to solve this problem through the Nigerian judicial system, because we know them and we know where they are taking this thing. So it's better. That is why it takes the president of the United States of America to just mention a word, and then you see them now running around to trying to deal with this, as if that is the first time they are knowing about all this.
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor John Aruna. Mike, so the question is, the judiciary is not to be trusted, and international prosecutions are extremely expensive. What are you thinking? These are people who are victims of enormous excessive crimes, and they want to engage international prosecutions. Do you think that is something they should be doing? Because it is very expensive to do that. Collection of evidence, accumulation of witnesses, transporting witnesses, and all the rest. It's quite expensive. What do you think?
Well, something needs to be done. And I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. We need to think about this regime properly. What's going on there? And it's hard to see from this level, but his history will show that this is like 1940, and we've just discovered Auschwitz. You couldn't go to the Nazi government for redress of grievances because your friend was killed by the Holocaust. They're just going to throw you in with them. I have a young man who I've worked with in Abuja at one of our camps. His sister was killed at a local hospital for lack of payment of a very small bribe. A horrible, horrible story. And it is very prosecutable. We've got a very top attorney lined up ready to take the case. And this young man just needs to testify because he's an eyewitness. And he won't. He's afraid, rightfully so, that if he speaks up, they'll just kill him too. That's what they do. And so asking these people to press charges in the Nigerian court system, the same system that just sentenced a man to death for self-defense. This farmer was stabbed. He got the knife away and stabbed back, and now he's under a death sentence. How can anybody go to a government like that? They just made up a law to put Nnamdi Kanu in life sentence because the law had been abolished, and they illegally rendered him from another country. So how can you trust a system like that? You can't. An individual going to international court is not going to get very far, I don't think. But at the state level, that's a very powerful thing that needs to be done. I'm actually working with a very high-level group right now to do a census, an international, objective, transparent census of displaced people in Nigeria, for example. And that's going to kick out so much evidence that indicts this sitting government of genocide, that it doesn't take, I think just any one nation within the ecosystem there can request an indictment and can push for that. So I think finding a nation, and if it's not the United States, then another that is willing to stand up and address this is the key. I don't think an individual can do it. It's just too costly.
Thank you. We'll get to talk about that one in a moment. Let me bring back Barrister Emmanuel to the stage. Barrister, you mentioned the ranches, and you were saying that it's becoming a complicated issue. But one of the solutions to this conflict has always been the establishment of ranches instead of the free ride of of cattle instead of herding cattle all over the place. Now you're raising an objection, unless I didn't understand you well. Are you raising an objection to the establishment of ranches?
Well, here's what my objection is. My objection is government using public resources to build ranches on the land of people who have been displaced by the Fulanis. That's not acceptable when the displaced people are still in tents. At some point, we need to elevate the status of Christians in Nigeria above the status of cows. Now, the problem, and historically, what we've given to understand is part of the reason that the Fulanis, trek with their cows all the way down southward was not really so much the vegetation. Part of it was evasion of taxes by the British. And so we have a group of people who want to run a business model that avoids any financial investment or any financial responsibility. People who raise hens, they buy feed for the hens. People who do piggeries do that. But the Fulanis want their cattle to eat the crops of human beings. So we have a situation where animals are competing with humans for survival, on farms, and that makes no sense. And so my demand is that displaced humans must be resettled first before there's any talk of government building ranches. And these people must take responsibility for their own business.
What I'm hearing from you is the displaced people must be resettled on the lands they occupied or they owned before they were displaced. And at the same time, I'm hearing from you that the ranches are a solution to the herding of cattle from place to place?
Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And here's the thing.
So if the resettlement on those lands would be a solution, don't you think that the ranches coming before the resettlement would be a better solution? So when they come in, they are settled without necessarily going through the risk of further attacks?
No, I again, there's no reason why a cow should take priority over human beings.
This is not about cows. This is about preparing the land for a peaceful situation when the people come back to take over.
All right. So I think you're meaning that, for the farmers to have peace, the ranches have to be in place. But what I think you're failing to get is that these Fulani herdsmen are generally not from Nigeria and don't have lands in Nigeria that they can lawfully claim, which is why they're going out and dislodging people from their own lands. If they want to run ranches, they should go buy land and build ranches like every other business person does. So I will not concede that human beings should take second place to cattle. That's not a starting point on this matter.
Yeah, to add to that, sorry, let me just come in briefly. Just to add to that, I agree with what Ima is saying here. Somebody who doesn't own the land just come with his animals, kill you, take over your land, and then the government comes and say, okay, we are going to use our resources, build ranches for you, while the real owner of the land is in camp and he doesn't have home again. That is what the government is trying to do. And that is what Ima is saying. And that is what we are saying. My people are displaced. And these people have taken over our homes. And now we are saying, if you want to, if you need to have all these ranches, go find a land somewhere and buy. You cannot take over my home and then the government come and build ranches for them, then where do I go? Because that is my home. That is what we are saying. This is a private business, and the government should not be part of it. So if the government want to solve this problem, they should just tell these people, go somewhere, find land, buy, and then build your. If you want to build ranches, we tell them this. Okay, why are you picking only the Fulanis? Our people, after being displaced, even in the people, we have some who have different animals too. Can the government support them and develop them too? But why are you particular? That's why I tell you, they don't have the political power to punish offenders. You should be punishing this person rather than building ranch for him. You ask him, how did you get this land? Okay, I killed this person, take over his land, and I want the government to build ranch for me in that. Come on, where is the justice there? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, thank you. That's what I want to add to.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I'm hearing that the problem is beyond the Fulani or the Muslim attacks. The problem has metamorphosed into a political one where there is a conquest for land ownership.
Yeah, that's what we keep saying. And the government is not willing to listen. And I'm glad that all these things are documented. Like Ima rightly said, somebody comes, kill you, and then in the name of religion again. Do you know that in my community, when they destroy church, they build mosques there? They use the foundation of the church and build mosques, and then tell our people, if you have the strength, come over again. If we're not going to kill you. You see, so these people, Islam is just, they want to Islamize the whole thing, and the government is supporting them. That's the way I see it. The government is supporting them. When you know a criminal, deal with the criminal. Let there be justice. And you want to pacify again the criminal by building ranch on somebody's land. I don't understand how the government thinks. Somebody says, if you understand Nigerian government, then you have to be taken to a psychiatric hospital. And I think he jokingly said that now I am seeing the reality of this.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me bring Mike back to the stage. Let's talk about the census. I know one of your recommendations that you made on the podcast last week when I hosted you was the United States should lead the organization of a census to determine the number of IDPs that are in all the different IDP camps. Can you explain that in more detail for the viewers to understand?
Absolutely, and they're not just in camps; they're in pockets and churches and houses and spread all over the place. There are no reliable numbers published, known of the number of IDPs, in large part because it's specifically and intentionally denied and covered up by the government. It started under Buhari. I had hope under Tinubu when he first got elected, but he's continued the same policies of denial and degrading and the slow killing of the displaced. For example, there's at least 6 IDP camps in the FCT alone, with at least 30,000 IDPs in it, but they'll tell you there's none. So understanding the depth of this issue is key to solving it. How can we get them back to their ancestral lands if we don't even know who they are or where they are? And so I'm actually in a working group with some fairly high-level policymakers and think tanks here in the United States. And I've floated this, and it's getting traction. It's now part of our official policy recommendations. And I'm not saying the U.S. needs to lead it. I'm saying it needs to be done in a transparent, credible, open, and above reproach way. And it might be an international team. But there needs to be, state by state, locality by locality, there needs to be a comprehensive census of the displaced Nigerians, where they're from, where possible, gather their stories, gather their testimonies. These are eyewitnesses to genocide. Where they are now, what they're living through, And there's a whole lot of them now. There's a whole generation of children born displaced,
Please
and
tell
all of
me,
that
please
needs to
tell
be
me,
counted.
what is the objective of this? Why do you want this to be done?
Well, they deserve justice and they deserve restoration. When you don't know whether there's 2 million or 10 million, it's sort of hard to get a handle on that. But also the way it's being done there, the intentional denial of aid to displaced people. The international community has the money and it has the mandate to take care of every displaced person on earth. If there is an IDP in this world that's identified as such, they are entitled to aid. By denying them the label, by denying their identity and the reality of their situation, they're being denied aid that's available to them. So the very first step in counting them and identifying them is getting them immediate aid. That needs to happen. But they also need to be returned back home. They need to be restored to their ancestral lands. And until we know how many there are, the scope of the situation, there's no way to come up with solutions for that. But let me close with this. Their existence, and the more information we get, the more data, their denial of aid is genocide. It's an extension of the genocide that's happening in the north. It's continuing it. It's the suppression of eyewitnesses. It's the continual victimization of these people, and that should be prosecuted. That's why I believe that's why they're being denied and hidden, is because they are the living testimony. They're the eyewitnesses. They're the smoke from the smoking gun, and truth requires that we know who they are and how many they are and what their needs are.
Thank you, Barrister Emmanuel. You who is out there, do you know the number of IDPs in your community or from the church area or whatever jurisdiction that you cover? Can you identify a specific number of IDPs or all those who have been directly impacted by the conflict or by the attacks?
Well, in Benue now it's estimated as 600,000, which is down from over 1 million a couple of years ago. Now, I do want to highlight, one of the speakers today who mentioned how, the definition of genocide was met because in Goza, there's not one single Christian left today. He pointed out that they've been pushed out of the country and pushed out to other parts of West Africa and Nigeria. And he said that the reason why Chibok hasn't been completely de-Christianized is that Chibok's youth are able to put up a fight. And so it is not for want of trying that this is happening. But Mike is right. We do need to ascertain the numbers. I've been working on the Christians who were pushed out to Cameroon from Goza. The camp, which I visited 11 years ago, had 2,000 Christians. At some point, it ballooned to 58,000 Christians. And they've been there for over a decade. And the latest information I've gotten is that maybe roughly about 200 of them have been resettled in the West, including America and Canada. But as we speak, so you know how bad the situation is. The governor of Borno State went to the Christians in the refugee camp in Cameroon last week and offered them, something like $300 to come back to Nigeria. Now, this is somebody that has been displaced for 11 years, is about to be resettled in America and somewhere else. And the Muslim governor goes there and offers them 300 naira to come back and get killed, because that's what it amounts to. Their part of the country has not been liberated. People who go back are going back to be killed by terrorism. And so, this is literally what we're staring at that is happening in Nigeria. And one of the recommendations we're going to make to Trump is, increase the refugee numbers that the US will take in next year and include Nigeria's persecuted Christians. You can't limit it to white South Africans. when you acknowledge that there is a crisis going on against people of the Christian faith in Nigeria.
All right, thank you. When the governor said that they should come back, did he guarantee them security once they are back?
Well, good point. Now, here's what my investigations have found: that he has built, tons of houses, for Muslims who were displaced as well, particularly his tribesmen, and he has resettled them. But he has not done the same for the Christians, is what we're told. And, in fact, I said to some of the Christian leaders today, I said, thank you, because they documented that 176 churches in their community, out of 176 churches in their community, only 28 are left. In other words, over 100 were destroyed by the terrorists in those communities. And so, I don't think he has really offered them any security guarantees.
Yeah, so when they say that he has built houses to resettle fellow Muslims, how do they make that difference between community members, or how do they make that difference of intention that the governor wants to resettle Muslims here and there is no resettlement for Christians?
Well, so I mean, the distinction is very clear. Even tribally, the Christians are not the same tribe as the majority Muslims in Borno State. So in Borno State, the majority tribe is the Kanuri tribe. It comes from the old Kanem Borno Empire, and Boko Haram is primarily from that tribe. And so they're killing, everyone who is not, a Muslim, everyone who is a Christian, and in particular, if you're not their tribe, they kill you too. The reports I'm getting was that he literally built houses for Kanuri Muslims, and they went back. And in fact, they tell me that when they tried to raise this with their congressman, their representative, that the senator said to them, "Yeah, you're not the priority of the government." And so, I mean, you need to understand how Christians are derided to their faces. They don't even pretend. I have a victim of terrorism here with me. When his wife went to the hospital to have a child, they wouldn't attend to her because she was a Christian. They focused on Muslims first, and this is not the first, second, or third time I've received reports of this nature. Christians are left to flounder and attend to themselves. And if you survive, they'll finally pay you attention. But they don't respond to you timeously.
Thank you so much. While such statements are difficult to verify, I do believe that those who are giving these testimonies to you are giving you live testimony, first-hand testimony from what they lived and what they witnessed on the ground. Let me come to you, Pastor John Aruna. So since President Trump made his declaration about what is happening in Nigeria, what have been the changes that you have observed?
Well, you see, to be honest with you, in terms of killings, I don't think that our people have, seen any significant change. The only thing that I know that the government did was to send a kangaroo committee, I don't know how to call it, a peace and reconciliation committee to move to our people and talk to them. But you see, this is just putting up something and tell the world that we are doing something about it. But that's a false impression. How will you, by the definition of that committee alone, is faulty. When you say peace and reconciliation, reconcile what? Peaceful who? It's like, we describe their coming in this scenario. A child comes crying that he is being beaten, bullied, and then everything that belongs to him was taken away by that bully guy. And then you tell your parent, you come crying, okay, can you do something about it? And then the parent come and say, okay, you know what, you live in peace. Come on, live in peace. You know, we have come to reconcile you. A reasonable parent will call that child, scorn that child, collect what belongs to this child, give it back to him, and then deal with that person. Ordinarily, common wisdom and common sense, you know, demand you do this. But we believe that's a camouflage to just show the world that now they are doing something because Trump said, hey, we're coming in. And that's what they're doing. So I don't see any change. I just see a cosmetic, a kind of a cosmetic, you know, arrangement, cover up, and say we are doing something. But I'm telling you, even last night.
Do you have any elements to show that their visit to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was just another cosmetic visit there?
You see, these people, they know what Trump can do, to be honest. If Trump said, we are coming in, we are coming in. And they know that by coming in, a lot of things will happen. Some of their political powers, because we believe that they're even using some of these people as political talks and for their own advantage. But, you know, even sending delegates to the United States to just come and say, hey, we want to deal with the situation. Let me tell you, if we have to be honest, I just see this as another cosmetic arrangement and a lie. These people will come and tell you, we need weapons to go and fight the terrorists. Give them 1 day, 2 days. The same weapons are in the hands of the terrorists. If you see the weapons these Islamic terrorists are using against people, you will wonder, how can somebody who lives in the bush get access to such weapons? Just like that. The other day, in fact, these terrorist guys, they are bold enough even to start recording what they are doing. Do you know that they can be killing people and then videotaping it? This will tell you how emboldened these people are. If you can bring out a whole general, a Nigerian army general, and tie him and kill him while doing video, and up to this time nothing happened. Come on. I mean, who are you deceiving? So I want to say, you know, with every sincerity of my heart, that this government are not ready to stop this thing. They are just buying time. And I hope and pray that the American Congress will work fast on what they are doing and just do what they intend to do. For them to trust this government to handle this situation, I then tell you, we can't trust them again. You know, like, let me just conclude by saying this. Like I said, I have people on ground who have pictures, who have evidence that I talk to every day. Do you know that even this week, okay, last week, today is Sunday, that people in communities were killed? It's still going on. So when the government keeps saying, you know, that they are doing something about it, to be honest, I don't even trust them. For them sending delegation to the US is just cosmetic arrangement. But if they will deal with this situation, they could have engaged these terrorists and let's do it. But up till now, they have not engaged. So, and we believe that sometimes they come and say, okay, please, we need arms. The American government has been giving them arms. Why can't they account for the arms? These are the same arms used by these terrorists. In fact, the other time these terrorists, you know what they did? Right in the middle of the bush, there was this gas tank, you know, supplying gas to their motorcycles and their bikes. Can you imagine? How can a terrorist who live in the bush get all these things? Come on, let's tell ourselves the truth. And I'm happy that a forum like this is presented here so that we can tell the world what is happening And I'm telling you, I wish and I pray that the American government will step in and intervene in this. And that is where the solution will come.
Thank you for that. Mike, you're getting this firsthand from Pastor Aruna and Barrister Emmanuel, that they have lost all confidence in the government. But in August this year, the government of the United States signed a $350 million defense agreement with the Nigerian government, meaning they're sending them arms. And probably those arms are supposed to be used in the fight against terrorism. Where are we going to with this? You're muted.
I apologize. You know, America has a very big government. We have a lot of wheels in motion. I don't believe that our top leadership was as aware of the situation in Nigeria at the time as they should be, or I don't know if that deal would have gone through as it did. At the same time, though, it gives we have strings. I mean, there's accountability that is owed to us when we provide funding for anything. We are able to ask for the receipts. We're able to demand the results, and that could be a positive outcome of what was the deal that was done with them. But again, had this bit, I don't think a deal like that would go through again right now, knowing what we know.
So one of your recommendations has been the international census, which we've just spoken about. What is the next recommendation on your list?
Well, so part of that IDP census would be, I believe, that would generate some very sufficient, overwhelming evidence to indict the current administration for genocide. Because
when you say indict the current administration, are you just saying administration, or are you talking about individuals in that administration?
Well, that's where I'm not a barrister, I'm not a prosecutor, but the policies of this administration do intentionally deny and suppress the displaced, and so
from the conversation we've had all along, it looks like since President Yaradua, all the administrations have been doing the same thing. Are you focusing on this administration, or are you just saying the administration as Nigerian government?
Well, this administration is guilty. I think everybody that's been responsible for any aspect of this should be brought to book. I think that when this is all said and done, there should be the Nigerian Nuremberg trials, and I think anybody that's benefited from this, that's been taken a bribe to turn a blind eye, anybody that's funded it or been behind it or perpetrated it, should be brought to justice. And if there's justice in the world, that's exactly what's going to happen, and that's what, to start an IDP census, will generate, I think, without a doubt. They are the eyewitnesses. Theirs is the testimony that will pull this down. In addition to that, beyond that, I believe that there's enough circumstantial evidence to warrant a very serious investigation of the Sokoto Caliphate for being a foreign terrorist organization. Again, I'm not saying that they are. I'm saying there's significant circumstantial evidence that warrants an investigation at a high level. And again, it just like the IDP census, that would be a state level investigation that's required because of the intel access that would be necessary. I think that's important. Again, we need to go to the roots of this. Even if we go and find the actual people that are wielding the machetes and pulling the triggers on the AK-47s, and we establish justice with them, more will come along if the roots aren't uprooted and wiped out. And that needs to happen.
Yeah, talking about the census, you mentioned that this must not be led by the United States. And do you have the feeling that another country can take on this challenge? Because it doesn't look like at the current moment there is interest from any other government apart from the government of the United States.
I didn't say it must not be led, but I'm not saying that that's a requirement. I think right now the United States needs to take the lead, absolutely, because we are the ones that are paying attention, and we are historically the most benevolent nation on the face of the earth. We also have the clout because we provide funding to Nigeria as well as other nations. So yes, the U.S. should definitely take a lead, but it should be I believe, a broad-based international effort. I believe we should get there are very credible observers, from election observers on down, across the board, and I think an above reproach panel should be put together so that the results are thorough and so that the results are accepted. If this was just a partisan U.S. Delegation doing this, then it could be questionable. What I've said is it needs to be above reproach. It needs to be transparent. Yes, the U.S. needs to initiate it. I believe Nigeria is sure not going to do it, but we should invite other nations to participate for sure.
I understand you don't want to talk much about the think tanks you are working with, but are the members of this think tank international and broad-based, or is it still a U.S. idea at this material point?
Okay, so yeah, I'm on a working group, I would call it, that has people from the government as well as different organizations, and it is international. There are leaders of various humanitarian organizations, aid groups, etc., intel organizations that are not just in the United States, but European countries as well as Nigerians as well. So yeah, but that think tank would be a good foundation. All right, again, working group would be a good starting point for such a thing, and it certainly has the credibility and clout and credentials behind it to do so. So we're putting the census front and center in our recommendations.
All right, thank you, Pastor John. How feasible is it for members of the Nigerian government or successive governments to be charged in this case? Because from what you have said, there are many members of the Nigerian government that might, or Nigerian governments that might be involved in this. And if the census Mike is talking about brings up evidence or information that many members of the government are involved, do you think your cries for the ICJ to try some of these people is going to be heard?
That's why I said it's high time for us to be blunt, to be straightforward, to be honest. I want you to know that whatever we say, we don't just wake up overnight and say, hey, we are just making false accusation or making statements. Anything you hear us saying here, we have evidence, we have intel, and we know. And the Nigerian government know that we know all these things. So it's just like I mentioned, how can a Fulani terrorist in the bush, where did he get the money? How can he even import arms and fight people? You know that there are sponsors behind these people. And I'm telling you, some of these criminals, when some of them that are arrested, they tell you who are involved. And the government knows who are sponsoring terrorism in our country. Recently, Dubai of itself, I think, yeah, Dubai, UME, sent list of terrorists. The last administration of Buhari, because he hid the list. It was hidden from people. And so they know those who are involved in all these things. That's why we keep saying this government doesn't have the political will to fight these people, because some of them will be implicated. High government officials are part of this. Because how can you imagine? And we cannot even trust the security people living guarding our people again. You see a situation where a community is being attacked, and the military force is there. Let me tell you one experience in Mbasa local government in Plateau State. Do you know that 3rd Armored Division that covers more than 5 states? This is a military base that has equipment that can fight these things. But right behind them, there is this community that was attacked, hundreds killed, home burned and destroyed, and the military could not even save the people. You can imagine what the Christian is going through. You can imagine the weight of all this thing. So For them to really, if they want to fight this thing, these people, bring them out, censor them, and punish them. That's why we said we have no confidence in the judicial system of Nigeria. We don't have confidence in this government. If we're able to get our facts, we have to go internationally. But like we said, it's true, it's expensive, but we have no choice. It's better we start getting the resources to go ahead with this, or else we are wiped, we are killed.
What are you doing to get resources to go ahead with this?
Yeah, you see, we have to consult organizations, the human rights organizations. Sit down with them. This is the case we have. How can we prosecute this case?
Some of those human rights organizations are saying that that your claims are being blown out of proportion.
You see, those saying that they know what they gain from the government. But all that we are saying is not that we don't have the facts. We have pictures, we have names, we have mass graves. If they want to open those mass graves and confirm whether what we are saying is true, they are all there for them. This is something that I have seen. I have conducted mass burials as well. So they are there. So all that we are saying, we have all the evidence. We have proofs. But, some of these human rights organizations, honestly, recently, when we're talking about genocide, and when we hear some of them saying there is no genocide in Nigeria, this issue is exposing a lot of so-called human rights activists in Nigeria today. When you hear what some of them are saying, we know that all this while some of them were just fighting for themselves, or just want to be popular, just want to make money, or they're trying to just show themselves that same fight. But they are not asking us, bring your evidence, bring your proof. Let's look at these things that you're talking about. They just sit down in their comfort room and say, these people, there's no genocide. No, some of these
but away from the term genocide, as Mike was saying, the emphasis should be on the IDPs because they need help. Do you think prosecuting the case based on crimes is the best solution to provide help to those who need help?
Well, you see, we're talking about two things here with what you just said now. One, prosecuting the enemy who has done this, and then the second aspect is the responsibility of the government to take care of these displaced people. You have the resources, and there are international organizations giving you help and support, humanitarian support. Where is all these things going? These are the real victims. So we're talking about two things here. You take care of those who are being displaced, bring them back, educate them, and provide essential things for them to be live as human beings. These people in IDPs, if you see their condition, you will just cry and weep and wish. I mean, are they from another country or from another world? How can the government be there and somebody who is living in an IDP camp for 10 years, and you come and say that is the mandate you have to help people? So these are two things that we just have to deal with them. We're dealing with two things here. One, we know the culprits. We know who is killing people. Give them justice. And then the second issue here is these IDPs, these people, they are human beings. Why will the government, can you imagine that even up to this moment, I remember the last administration, the vice president came to Plateau State because we have thousands of IDPs. He just came and said, okay, we promised 10 billion naira to help the because when he came, he saw the situation himself. He was touched and moved. It was not stories. It was not overblowing the stories. He came himself, saw the situation. He was shocked. And immediately he pronounced government policy that we are going to give 10 billion naira to resettle these people and help these people. He left. Up till this time, I'm talking to you, they have not released that money. Come on. Why are they treating people like that? These are citizens. These people, supposed to be treated like human beings. So all that we are saying is not that we are overblowing them. Their facts are there. So we hope that the government will take up the responsibility and help our people. We are suffering, and our people are suffering. And that's our cry.
Thank you, Mike. So at this point, what do you think is the best strategy to bring the resettlement? I know you're talking about the census to identify all of them, but in addition to the census, what do you think can be done? Because a census can take time to complete.
Sure.
What do you think can be done in the interim or side by side the census?
Well, first, it's important to establish that the people cannot be resettled now as is. It's too dangerous. They will just be killed. We sent a team just last fall from our camp at New Kuchingoro in Abuja to residents of a village called Ngoshe, that's in Gwoza, up in Borno State. Went back with members of our team and a videographer, and their whole old town is basically a post-apocalyptic hellscape. It's never been, the people that destroyed it had no intention of doing anything constructive there. There is a small encampment that's in a military cordon area where the surviving residents are now living, and the conditions are just as bad as the IDP camp. And just last fall, I was sent a video. We have a sister congregation church there, very brave pastor that's in that little military area in Ngoshe. Some members of his church went out to get food and ended up being the subjects of a Boko Haram recruitment video, getting their heads cut off. And that still happens there. So to just send them home is sending them to their death. That's why it's important to focus on them, on the positive of restoring them. Requires the purging of the jihadis, and it's a very deep issue. So yeah, the very first thing, I'm not saying withhold aid until the census is done. Immediately start the aid. Immediately start taking care of these people. And this whole generation of children born displaced, I do all I can. We do with our schools. But there's so much that's needed. So to call the world's attention to it, to bring in the international aid and take care of the people where they are now is vital. I do believe that there is a potential in the ranching solution. You can't have a nomadic tribe in a civilized world that takes their cattle everywhere. It doesn't work anymore in this world, especially when the country is populated as Nigeria. So having ranching zones is important. How the property ownership is established, I agree that it needs to be equitable. It could be leased as well. But there needs to be demarcated areas. And there's a saying we have here in the United States: good fences make good neighbors. Put up the fences, put up the walls, let the ranching be done and let the farming be done. That can be coexisted. But ultimately, the jihadis need to be purged, and the roots need to be uprooted, and the displaced need to be taken back to their ancestral lands, and there needs to be funding for helping them rebuild and resettle. That needs to come out of Nigeria. I think there's an opportunity with if model for its mineral wealth, that the people on top of the land get benefit from what's under it. That's what should happen. It shouldn't be foreign countries coming in, extracting it all, and leaving behind a hole in the ground and pollution. There should be a significant portion of mineral royalties and mineral income that is dedicated specifically to the people that live above it. And I think that with enough mineral wealth and with that model being done properly, I think they can go a very long way to restoring peace and restoring people to their rightful ancestral lands.
Yeah, you've made two claims I would like us to go into. The first is that the terrorists need to be purged. How should they be purged?
It's a good question. It's probably over my pay grade. I know that there's been a lot of them, and I've heard numbers in the millions, that are illegally there, that came in from North Africa and other parts of the world, specifically to wage jihad, and that are living there. And I know eyewitness reports that at least back in 2014, 2015, when the Gwoza massacre happened, that the first wave was lighter skinned. They call them foreigners. That needs to be dealt with. Those people should be, like we're working to do here in the United States, should be identified and sent back to their their country, their ancestral lands. It's a big undertaking. There's no doubt about it. So that's one. And so the other thing is,
how is that going to be feasible without attacking or killing civilians that you are seeking to protect?
Without attacking, killing civilians. These days, there's quite a good technology for identifying collateral damage in a modern war. Doesn't have to be vast and widespread. These terrorists, they congregate. They have their own camps. They do have a lot of human shields. A lot of the abducted are kept in camps around theirs as human shields. That needs to be addressed. But there's ways. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but the fact is, again, realize this is the Nazi regime of our age. This is the Holocaust of our lifetime, and the world can send people to the moon, and we can build space stations. We can certainly clean up a country in Africa, but it's going to take substantial effort. It's going to take a substantial expense. But the fact is that no great nation, no great civilization is ever built on a foundation of injustice. And so if Nigeria, if Africa is going to rise, it needs to be done on justice. And this is the hard work that needs to be done. When the country rolls up its sleeves, when it's a few of us on a podcast hacking solutions, it's one thing. But when the whole community has a manifest destiny for greatness, it can be done. And it can be done faster than it was destroyed. I believe it can be rebuilt.
All right. Let's talk the next item you raised, and that is minerals. You know, once ever the United States says they are going somewhere to do anything, the first criticism is always about going in there to get minerals for free. Is that an underlying policy or purpose of what President Trump is doing here?
I haven't heard it talked about among anybody. I haven't heard. I met with, like I said, Riley Moore's staff. I've seen him at work. He didn't go and look at the minefields. He went and met with the IDPs. It's a humanitarian effort. Now, the fact is, minerals are the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and you know, only ignorant people would fail to realize that. And the fact is, the minerals now are what are enabling a lot of this to happen. It's the Chinese paying to loot the minerals from the north, and other nations. The Chinese are the ones that are known. There's probably others. That is driving a lot of this. So yeah, the minerals are a big part of it. They're a big part of the problem, the way it's managed now, and I think they can be a big part of the solution. Nigeria is a mineral-rich nation, but the people are poor. There's something wrong with that equation. And if you look at the minerals and the quantities that are there's only a handful of nations in the world that are actual customers for that quantity. United States is one of them. China is another. You have just a handful of others, and I think Nigeria needs to wisely choose their customers. The ultimate, and also structure the deals again so that it's transparent. We use blockchain. There's other ways to make sure that it's done above board without corruption, but also ensuring that a portion of the proceeds goes back to the community they came out of. The people on the ground need to benefit from what's under the ground. Ultimately, in the longer term, Nigeria needs to industrialize. Instead of selling raw materials, Nigeria has definitely the capability of selling finished products, finished goods and services. That's how you become a premier nation. And so emphasis needs to be put. It's education, it's training, it's supporting entrepreneurs, it's better policies, less corruption, and Nigeria can become an industrialized nation so it doesn't need to sell its minerals, where it can sell finished products. That's the long-term solution.
All right, we can prosecute the case on minerals later on in more detail. Pastor John, have you had any criticisms about bringing in the United States to plunder or take Nigeria's resources for free?
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I've had people, you know, those who want to change the narratives, you know, saying, America will come with their interests, you know, and start, you know, taking minerals. They are just changing the narrative. They just want to, you know, instigate the people against the US. And I think I can call this, you know, government propaganda. You know, when those, you know, people who are putting this narrative, the people, let me tell you what they said. They said, look, will come and take away all these minerals and give them peace. for them to go back to their homes, go back to their farms, they are okay with that. After all, the minerals have been there for years. Who is benefiting from it? They have never benefited from it completely. They provide their water for themselves. They don't have security. They are in poverty. So they don't even have hospitals. There are no even good roads. The poor masses in Nigeria, they don't benefit anything from the government. So the people were saying, why are you talking about these things now? How long have you been, mining all these things? Where are the proceeds? Where is the benefit? And these people are saying they want to clear the terrorists for us to go back to our farms, to have our homes. If that is what will bring peace to us, in fact, they're saying, America, come, take whatever you will take. But we know that is not true. But the point is that all these people are crying. All these people want is peace. Who will take them back to their homes? Who will give them peace? These are farmers. These are local farmers. All they want to do, all these years, they provide all these things for themselves. Go to these villages. They don't have potable water. They don't have roads. They don't have social amenities like any other person. So if you're talking about minerals, what have the minerals done for the people? This will tell you that this is just government propaganda. So we want the Americans to come, clear these bandits, let people go back to their homes, and then continue with their farming, life as usual. They eat and provide for themselves what they can provide for themselves, because the government cannot even provide anything for them. So anyone talking about minerals, America can. These are just government propagandists. I'm telling you, these are people coming, trying to dissuade people. But we know more than that.
Okay, so what are you as an individual expecting of the United States government now?
I want to agree with what Mike said. See, with the technology America have in this world, I believe they know where this terrorist group meets. We've seen a situation where people are meeting. Americans send drones and send precise missiles to take off these leaders from all over the world. And I'm telling you, in Nigeria, these terrorist guys, I believe that America have the technology to know where they meet and just finish these people. Because these people, their aim is to kill everyone and take over the land and Islamize Nigeria. So all I am asking and pleading and begging the American government to do, you know where these people are. I don't want to believe that Americans don't know these people, don't even know where they meet. Take these people out, and then they will know that there is a serious, America is serious in destroying them. And that is what I want. America, come, you know where these people are. You know where they meet. You know where they are. Just take them out, bomb them, and then they will know that the world is serious about this. And then people will go back to their homes. That is my candid plea.
Thank you so much. Let me come to Mike, and we'll give our last words, and then we'll wrap up the conversation. So, Mike, what are your last words to the viewers of the Beyond Africa podcast, and ultimately to Nigerians and the United States citizens who are concerned and involved in the whole process? Your mic, please. Unmute yourself now.
Okay, sorry about that. I apologize. I've said this before, I'll say it again. We're in the middle of a great darkness, but light. What we're in the middle of is an absence of light. Light is truth. Light is love. And everybody has the opportunity to let their light shine. And if you've been, the folks that have been following this podcast, and I appreciate your rigorous, request for where's the documentation, how is this validated? That all ultimately comes from eyewitness accounts. It comes from the reality, the stories that you know, the stories that you've lived, the people that you know. I know it can be a scary thing in Nigeria to speak up and tell the truth, because oftentimes people that speak up and tell the truth are persecuted. But if you don't live on your feet, you're going to die on your knees. That's what's happening across Nigeria. And that ultimately is going to happen across the world if we don't put our feet down, stand up, and speak the truth. Keep speaking the truth. Keep shining the light. Keep loving, keep serving your neighbor. That is how things ultimately change. There's no other way. Also, live for the future. Live from the future you want to see. Live from the regime you want to see. We don't fight this in the same tactics that caused it. You don't fight with violence that's unnecessary. You don't fight with anger or revenge or retribution. You fight from victory. You fight from truth. You fight from love. It might, there might be, there's a time for everything under heaven, but don't be bad like them. Be the good guys. Speak the truth. Keep posting. Keep sharing. Keep serving, and we will see change.
Thank you, Mike. So there is time for everything under heaven, but there is no time to be bad under heaven.
Amen.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me bring Manuel, the Reverend John Haruna, to give us his last word.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to really thank you for creating this platform. You are giving us voice. And I believe that I've received so many messages. A lot of people back in Nigeria are watching. And I believe the government is tracking every conversation, concerning what is happening in Nigeria. So that alone gives us confidence that people are listening. And like Mike said, we Christians, our faith and our confidence is all about peace. You can imagine if we are to go on an attack or revenge, you know that there will be civil war today. But because we follow the teaching of Jesus, we love, we are the one displaced, we are the one killed. But even the Bible talks about justice. And God created government for the sake of justice. But if government is not willing to do that, I'm telling you, it may lead to what the government don't want to. We hope it doesn't reach to that point. We keep praying and telling our people, let's keep praying and trusting that this thing will be over one day. But we just hope that the Nigerian government will see the handwriting on the wall. People are getting tired. People are getting agitated because the government is not willing to protect. The government is not willing to bring justice. They should allow the American government to bring the justice that they are not willing to give our people. And that is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Aruna. Thank you very much, Mike Arnold, for being on the Beyond Africa podcast today. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been your host, Ngalim Bernard. At the Beyond Africa podcast, we share African stories that change lives. We don't take a position. We let everyone come and share their views, share their positions. And if you have a contrary view, you are equally invited to come and explain yourself and express yourself so that our viewers can make informed decisions that are based on the whole story and not on one side of the story. We promote peace, we promote reconciliation, we promote justice, and of course, humility is the basis of all these. At the Beyond Africa podcast again, I have been your host, Ngalim Bernard. Kindly like, subscribe, comment, and share. More people need to hear these stories about Nigeria, and we are dedicating the next few episodes of the Beyond Africa podcast to discuss about Nigeria, because we want to see peace, we want to see reconciliation, and want to see the giant of Africa remain the giant of Africa and become the giant of the world. We trust you, we support you, Nigeria, and we'll give you the platform to express yourself and become the best of the best. At the Beyond Africa podcast, as we say, what a time to be alive. What a time to follow African politics. See you in our next episode of the Beyond Africa podcast.